to the shop for the first time, this is my... I should redo that. Seeing that old video lets me know a couple things. One, the shop has changed a lot in the last year, and that's what we're going to go over today. And two, even though the beard looks awesome, I need a haircut.
Get a haircut, hippie!
Now, if you watched my introductory hello video, you'll notice that there's a lot of the same things, but there's also some major additions. And if you watch my other videos throughout the year, you may have seen those additions either in action or I've talked about them on my lives. Now, I will say some of these additions are expensive, some of them aren't. Some of them have worked out beyond my wildest expectations, and on some of them, the jury's still out. Today, you and me are hanging out. I'm going to show you my shop just like you came by to visit, and you are my friend. In fact, I did not even clean it. So you will see sawdust, you will see things out the whole 9 yards. So come on and let's spin in circles and have a good time. First thing you see when you walk into my shop is the back of my door. Now, this is my PPE here. Ears, mouth, eyes. You also see the first thing I ever built, that wasn't my dad's urn, which is my shooting board. I do not use that as much as I'd like, but I'm never going to get rid of it because I do use it occasionally. And it might be like the first thing I ever made that's flat and square, or at least I think so. Maybe I don't want to use it, so I find out that it's not. Over here in my ill-used corner, I have, besides the box, I have all my very long, I mean, these are the really long panel clamps. And this is where I put my wood that I'm using for the next project. And that all this wood is going to be used in my next video, which will be hopefully coming out the next couple weeks. Now, I would climb on here and slide, but one, I'm fat, and two, Bourbon Moth already does that, so I don't want to steal his stuff. Right over there is my dust collection. If you watched my dust collection video, I had to put it on the other side because I thought that would have been smart. It was not. Par for the course for me. Behind that, you'll see what I use to get all my boxes flat and square, which is just a large sheet of plywood with a bunch of 100 grit sandpaper on it. So if I, it comes out flat. And that is the technical name for it.
Everybody's a comedian.
Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being things I wish I didn't do, and 10 being things I wish I would have done sooner, my lumber rack, which was not in the last video, is about a 9. This lumber rack allows me to buy all my hardwood locally. It's already dried, but it is a lot less expensive when I can mill it myself. So being have a place to store all of it allows me not to have to make multiple trips. And then the more I buy, the more of a discount I get. So that's what I want. Over here, this is supposed to be part of the table saw, and I'll show you the table saw in a second. Not much has changed there. Actually, nothing has changed. But since I've been doing a lot of making smalls for an upcoming home show that I have, you'll see I got some really cool ingrained posters I made. I got some stuff here that this is basically the projects that need to be finished. And I'm building a finishing station in my basement so I can put everything in there when it's done. And then I'll start finishing all this, but I'm going to get on that soon. Table saw. Exact same place it was last year. Absolutely no change, except for the fact that I upgraded my crosscut sled. Now, if you watched my build video, the worst build video ever, and I stand by that, you would have saw me build this. Now, for a while, I was using this as my router table, and I still am, but it was not underneath here. I made it to be underneath here. Then I decided that I actually wanted to use it as a working surface. Things have changed because it turns out that I actually don't use my router as often as I use my hand router. So as I mentioned in my video about, designing your shop, you got to get to work. And then when you get to work, you'll determine how you're going to use things. I use these mainly for marquee letters and occasionally for cutting boards. There was no point in leaving it out. So now I can put it underneath here, and that saved room for the major additions to my shop, which we're going to get into now. Right above me is another addition to my shop that I didn't have a year ago. On a scale of 1 to 10, that is definitely a 10. My lungs are dying, and that helps me. So if you don't have good filtration in your shop or good dust collection, don't be me, don't be stupid, invest in that as soon as you can. Now, I know I mentioned the dust collection earlier, but I never mentioned on a scale of 1 to 10. That's a 20. I should have gotten this dust collection pretty much right away. You fool! There's some tools I probably could have passed on first before so I could get the dust collection. It's made my job so much easier. It's made the shop cleaner, and honestly, I've been hacking up less since I got that and the air filter. Now, this wall here has completely changed. The only thing that is the same is I still have my bandsaw there, and I still have my flip cart, even though I did change the tools that are on the flip cart, and I'm going to show you the flip cart here in a second. On the back wall, I got my sandpaper. Actually, it's my dad's sandpaper, so it's one of the things I still have in here that I haven't upgraded or replaced. And then this is one of the things that I made as well. This used to be on the other wall, and this is where I keep all the tools that I reach for first. Now, I have all these here because my main portable working area is right over here, which I will show you in a second. All right, so what used to be in this spot on my flip cart was my rigid sander. However, I ended up changing it because some of the projects that I've been doing require me to cut multiple angles, and that's at the same time. So, you know, one end would be some really odd angle, like 69.69 degrees, and the other angle would be like 72 or something like that, because I've been making a lot of marquee letters, as I mentioned before. So I needed to upgrade my saw. I had a 10-inch one, but it was broken, and really it wouldn't do anything other than 90 and 45, so almost completely useless. I went ahead and upgraded to the 12-inch because you could tell by looking around that I do like DeWalt. I'm comfortable with them, and I saw a lot of good reviews about this particular saw. Plus, I wanted a 12-inch one so I can cut some bigger, you know, wider boards.
Size matters.
Now, in between the table saw and the bandsaw, I got my drum sander, single drum, Pro Max 2 20-inch. At the time that I bought this, I was thinking I was going to be doing more in-grain cutting boards, which I started doing again, but at the time, I thought I would be doing them a lot more, and I had made about 5 of them up to that point, and 2 of them blew apart because I was trying to flatten them with my planer. Now, just a side note, some people say never do it. Other people have made videos on it. It was 40%. 40% blew apart, 60% didn't.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
But even the 60% that didn't blow apart, it was very rickety. So trust me, I don't do that anymore. However, I do not use this as much as I thought. So when it comes down to it, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I wish I never would have bought it, 10 being I wish I would have bought it sooner, this is definitely a 4. The jury is still out on that. And let me tell you why. First off, the machine itself may have been fantastic when it was brand new. But since I bought it used, I've had to fix it a couple times by myself. And that's just aggravating, and it slows me down. It's flipped my breaker numerous times because I had to go from a 220 and wire it for 110 because I didn't have enough space in my box to add another 220 without adding a brand new box.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
The 110 was working fine for small things, like if I'm putting small boards in there. But once I started doing big things, like I wanted to use it for, like tabletops and things like that, or very large cutting boards or anything like that, then it started getting clogged up. And then even when I switched and finally got the dust collector I wanted, it was still flipping the breaker. And then it just, as of now, maybe I need to learn to use it better. Maybe I have to start using the 220 on there. But as of now, I don't use it as much as I'd like. And I'm actually thinking that what I should do and what I may do is sell it and then get what I really need, which is a better jointer. Because one of the mistakes I made was getting what everyone said not to do, which was get the desktop jointer 6-inch, because I thought it was better to have one than to not. And I guess technically I still believe that. However, I really need a big base with at least 8 inches on there for the kind of work that I've been doing constantly. Now this corner is pretty much exactly the same. Still have all my clamps. Now at first look, this corner looks pretty similar. I still have my clamps, and I still have my wood up here, and I still have my little MDF drawers that I made for my screws and nuts and bolts. I did make a change to where over there is now all my finishes and my denatured alcohol, all my epoxy, and eventually I'll put a little door on it. Now, I had a big bench here that I used for storage and things like that. And then because that big bench was in the way, I couldn't reach any of these two drawers. They were basically just there to throw stuff in when I didn't want to ever get them again. Now I actually have all my, I got my pin nailer. I got more bolts and screws. I got over there's my son's electrician tools, and I use them sometimes. Over here, I got the 2 boxes that I made. Both of them have stuff like cookies are in one, and then clamps and things for the table right here and then the other. And then I have paints and stuff like that down there. This little table here is portable, so it goes everywhere. I know you've seen this in one of my videos before. And here's all my sharpening gear, and here's my Sawzall and stuff like that. And then over here is my chisel. So everything is right here, and I can move this from one end of the shop to the other. Now, some things that are different over here is I made this so I can show off my dad's planes. And those are the planes that I use when I'm actually using hand tools. I have a TV, and then these are actually behind a clamp rack, but I need to buy some clamps for it because I actually moved all of those clamps that were on various walls into one location, which I'll show you. And then, of course, I have my heater, and then I got Yoda, and, of course, my Woody, because I am an award-winning host of woodworking talk shows. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, watch the Woody's video. It's my X-Carve. On a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 9. The only reason why it's not a 10 is because it's not necessary, but it's awesome. So what I mean by that is that anything that you can do with an X-Carve, let's say you want to put an inlay of a cardinal in a cutting board. You could do it by hand. It takes a little bit more time, it takes a lot more skill. Some people, and I may have some people on that in my feed are like, that's not woodworking. Other people are like, it's just a tool. You use the tools to make the best product you can. There's limitations to this. No, this does not help you make a box square. It just doesn't. It does not help you make furniture. What it does do is it helps you take things like smalls, which everyone seems to be selling now, and you can personalize them, make them worth a little bit more, make them worth more to the people you're trying to sell them to. And you can add things to the furniture that you've learned to build with your own 2 hands that set it apart. Because let's be honest, people like design. So when you build it, you got the steak. Let's add some sizzle to it, and that's what this does. Bam! So that's why I give it a 9. It's not a 10 because it's not necessary. It's not necessary like my dust collection was necessary. But it definitely is a 9 because it's freaking awesome. Now, these things were all in my previous video. They've just been moved around, except for Darth Vader there. That was my first epoxy pour. It's a little... It didn't come out very good, so I'm keeping it in the shop. But this is my docking station. So all of my battery chargers are up here. And since I usually use my batteries mainly for drilling and sanding, I have all my drill bits. And they're including my Dow Max and things like that. That was my dad's. I'm trying to hold on to it as long as possible. I did have to get rid of the top part because it kind of broke and it was getting in the way and it was clunky. But I keep all my screwdrivers, Allen wrenches, socket wrenches, things like that in there. And then over here underneath the CNC machine, I have some other things in there as well that I can get to. The only thing that's out of place right now is the drill press. Now, I mentioned the drill press just to get you excited about my next build video. We're actually going to be taking those scraps right there. Those are all cutoffs from the marquee letters I was using. And so that is basically like sheeting plywood. And then the 1 2x4 that I have left. And we are going to make an awesome, functional, really cool looking, because I got some ideas, table that's portable for the drill press. So keep an eye out for that video. Now, of all the upgrades to the shop, all of them were bought except for this one, which was built. Now, what I had before on that wall, that big wall, was the big giant pegboard. And I got it because it was inexpensive. And I mentioned that in the video. But the problem with the pegboard is it's not very effective space-wise. So what I did was I took that pegboard, I broke it down, I framed it in, and
a few minutes later,
now I'm able to not only have things here on the outside, but I can open it up, and now I have all this space on the inside, and I even have space inside the doors. So now I'm making one, this is the same full sheet of pegboard, but now it's taking up less of a footprint on my wall, and I'm using some of that airspace to store the tools, making it more effective. Another thing I did was decided to work smarter, not harder, and I got tired of these being in different locations in the shop, so I consolidated all of my most used small style F-clamps. My rigid sander is still down there. I don't use it as much as I thought I would, but when I do need it, it's really handy, so I'm never going to get rid of it. And then, of course, I still have my air right here. Now, one of the things I was able to do by moving everything around is I have a lot more room in the shop for building. One of the projects I did recently this year was a mantle, a pretty big one. And before I moved the shop around, it was very difficult to put it together and be able to move around it to get the tools that I need for the next part of the project, or just to, just to move in general. There you go. Welcome to Generations Woodcraft, year 2023. Now, if you want to learn how to go ahead and get the most out of the space in your shop, watch this video here. And if you're feeling the pinch in the year 2023 and you want to save some money, watch this video here.